that whatever your exit from your career was because you wanted to do it on your own terms. So the thing in psychology called the peak end rule, where to simplify it, minimalize it, a lot of how you remember any endeavor that you did in life, a career, a vacation, whatever it is how you felt at the very end.
Let's talk about freedom.
Yeah.
It means different things to different people, but certainly one does not want to be enslaved by anything, including their own pursuit of work. So there, I think, at least two forms of anti-freedom. One would be the type that exists within our head. We have to continue on this track because I'm afraid of failure or I'm in pursuit of something, and we are actually enslaved in a way that we sort of create for ourselves in the act of pursuit. The other is the job where, it's providing resources, but we really don't need to be there. And yet people don't hop off the train.
Yeah.
They could escape the dreaded boss or the dreaded circumstance. I remember a time when all I wanted was a window at work that opened for fresh air. That's all I wanted. I had all these other things. I just wanted a window that opened. I even tried to find one of these little saws to saw, but then the maintenance people or the facilities people told me I'd get in trouble. We yearn for freedom. We hate enslavement,
right,
for all the obvious reasons. In your observation, what is the best way to frame this need for freedom? And I have to imagine that people listening are at various points along their careers. What have you observed here in yourself and with other people you talk to?
Yeah.
Wealthy, not wealthy. What is freedom? How do we get real freedom?
I think there's this anecdote that I love, which was from Franklin Roosevelt when he was a kid. I think he was 5 years old. He complained to his mother one day. He said, "My entire life is rules and schedules, and I hate it." So his mom said, "Okay, Frankie, tomorrow you can do whatever you want. The day is yours, anything you want." And his mom, Sarah Roosevelt, wrote in her diary that night, he said that day that he could do anything, he went back to his normal schedule. He did everything on schedule like he was supposed to do, but he was much happier because nobody was telling him to do it. And I think that's what's true for a lot of people. Freedom does not mean you do nothing. It doesn't necessarily mean you retire. It doesn't mean you quit working. I want to be free and independent, which means I want to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever the hell I want today. Even if most mornings what I want to do is work and be productive and put myself to use. So I think a lot of people misconstrue freedom as I'm gonna ride off into the sunset and do nothing now. It's like, no, I think people have an inherent drive to want to be productive and social and do things. But there's a big difference between your boss telling you to do it and doing it on your own terms. When I was a junior in college, like a lot of young men, I wanted to be an investment banker. That's what looked like power and prestige. So I got this investment banking internship, and it was absolutely miserable. They had this saying that is so funny in hindsight. They said, if you don't come to work on Saturday, don't bother coming back on Sunday. Like, just the culture of it was work 100 hours a week. Just go nuts with it. And I hated it. I hated every single second of it, and I had to leave. But it wasn't because I was not into hard work. I think I was absolutely willing to work hard. I just didn't want anyone to tell me to do it. And so when I became, not necessarily financially independent, but I could have a job, it was more entrepreneurial. It was like, oh, I will work very hard. And sometimes I might work as hard as an investment banker. I might work 80 hours a week, but it's on my terms. And I think everyone is way more willing to do that than they are to be told what to do. I think that is an inherent human driver. And if you can use your money for independence to where you can wake up and say, I have the financial flexibility to work where I want, live where I want, retire when I want, take a different job, move to a different department, even if it's going to pay less. That giving yourself independence and autonomy, I think for most people is what's going to drive. That's the highest tool that you can use with money. And what's important about that is, where do you get independence with money? It's the things you don't spend money on. It's the car you didn't buy. It's the house you didn't buy. And most people will view that as like idle money. You're saving up money. It's just sitting in the bank doing nothing. No. It's giving you independence. And once you view as like every dollar that you don't spend is money that you are actually spending on independence. It's not idle. It's giving you marginal more independence than you had the day before. Then I think to me, that's why I save money. I'm not saving money because I'm a pessimist. I think it's all going to come collapsing down. I'm saving money because I want to be independent, because that's what I think is going to give me the most fulfillment, the most happiness. And that's where the savings comes from.
How should the person who is, well, let's just say early mid-career, who likes what they're doing, but thinks that this is probably not the thing for them? I hear about this all the time. Like, it's this, like, yeah, like it's good, but it's a ton of work. It's unclear how it's going to turn out, but they feel like they're already on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
There's always this question of, do you stay in investment banking another year to make a bunch of money and then you get out so that you then have the freedom to pursue something where you have more freedom? People are always playing this kind of mental math, and I don't think there's a clear answer, unless, of course, you're lucky enough that like you fall in love with science. I mean, I did not become a neuroscientist to make money, and Lord knows I didn't. I mean, I made a living, but if people heard what I was making as a tenured 45-year-old professor at one of the premier universities in the world, where the salaries are relatively high, they would be shocked.
Right.
Just shocked that post-tax income is quite low by Bay Area standards.
Right. But did you feel like you had independence? You could teach what you want, say what you want. There was a level of independence.
Absolutely. And I loved it. And I still teach there, and it's one of these things where I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Right.
I also, in terms of intellectual stimulation, in terms of being able to look to my left or look to my right and realize that most of the people at Stanford, students included, are just phenomenal.
Right.
Like their level of intellect, their drive, their excitement for what they're doing. I mean, no one ends up there by accident.
Right.
So that was and remains extremely exciting.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, unless they find a profession that they really love, or there's some feature of that profession that keeps them, looped in a way that feels satisfying, the people, et cetera. Most people are kind of thinking like, all right, how do I work to make a living? And then, what's the exit ramp? People think a lot about exit ramps, and sometimes it's a dollar amount, but also it's the idea that maybe, go work on their real love, which might be like gardening. They want to, you hear about these sort of hobby interests, right? I'll write poetry, or I'll, go, with ceramics or something like that. Yeah. The things that they truly enjoy doing. How should people optimize along those musts versus want tos versus sort of aspirational goals?
Two things come to mind here. One is like if most people understand inherently the dangers of communism or something. If the government's telling you what to do, when to do it, what to say, that's a bad thing. It's going to erode society. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those people work at a job where their boss tells them what time to come in, what to wear, what to say, how to act, what not. So they really understand it fundamentally at one level, but they're actually doing some version. Now, companies have to manage their employees, whatnot. It's not a knock against that. But I think what's really true for independence and people, if they eventually move on to writing poetry and playing in their garden, whatever it might be, is that you leave on your own terms. That whatever your exit from your career was because you wanted to do it on your own terms. So the thing in psychology called the peak end rule, where to simplify it, minimalize it, a lot of how you remember any endeavor that you did in life, a career, a vacation, whatever it is how you felt at the very end. And for a lot of people, if you have a great career, you enjoyed your career, you helped people, you made money, your colleagues appreciated you, but then you got fired, or your boss came to you and said, you're too old to keep doing this. That's bad. You'll never recover from that. And you compare that to the people who quit on their own terms. They said, look, I'm proud of my career, but that's enough. I'm gonna take a step back and pass the baton to another generation. Those are the people who, even if they didn't really enjoy their career that much, will look back at it fondly, because it gets back to freedom and autonomy and control. Do you leave on your own terms, or are you forced out on somebody else's schedule? And so I think wherever you go in life, whatever you're doing, even if you're not an entrepreneur, maximizing for independence and autonomy and doing it on your own terms, on your own calendar, is absolutely vital in anything you're doing. I mean, most people are not necessarily, particularly as they get older, are not necessarily scared of death. Mm-hmm. They're scared of a death not on their own terms. Mm-hmm. That's going to sneak up on them, where they're not going to have a chance to say goodbye. So I think that's a good analogy for a lot of these things. We're not scared of the ultimate outcome. We're scared of not being able to do it on our own terms.
Thanks for watching. If you found this information helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more health and wellness tips.